So the premise behind Musology is that kids and people more generally know the words to all their favorite songs, and that's something we do very easily and naturally. Yet the same students struggle to learn. And so when I was working with Garth and his manager, Bob, I started talking to Bob about this idea of what if we could harness the power of music to help people remember things they struggle with. And so given my background in learning as a teenager, that was absolutely on my radar as soon as I started working into the music business. It occurred to me as a former memory researcher, and that's what my doctoral research is in as well, memory. So it occurred to me as a former memory researcher just how powerful music is as a learning technology.
So now, please welcome the official, non-official, non-sponsor of the Savannah Bananas, but a big fan. Please welcome John Fletcher.
Well, thank you, my friend Jesse Cole, owner of the Savannah Bananas, and welcome to this week's edition of 15 on Fridays with Fletch. Today's guest will be our highest IQ person ever because she graduated from Harvard and was a Rhodes Scholar. She's an entrepreneur, a writer, and memory expert dedicated to helping people reach their full potential. She's worked with global superstars across all kinds of music genres. And when Garth Brooks was preparing to return from his retirement, she made the predictions on how many seats he would sell, how quickly, how much merchandise he would sell, and she hit the numbers right on the nose. Being a math genius, nobody was surprised when she partnered with Garth's manager, Bob Doyle, to create the concept of Muzology, which teaches math through music. So her concept has led to grants and kudos from the National Science Foundation, the Institute of Education Sciences, and she's been featured in Billboard magazine and U.S. News and World Report and many more. So please welcome my friend from Nashville, the creator of Muzology, Dr. Lana Israel. Welcome, Lana.
Hi, Fletch. Good to be here.
Great to see you again. Not quite in person like we have in the past, but still,
Yeah.
this is wonderful. So tell us what it's like to be the smartest person in the room. In that sense, I guess you're kind of a brainiac.
Oh my God. Well, not when I'm on a call with you, John. Um, Gee whiz. Well, I think I like being called a brainiac. I think brainiacs are cool.
Well, tell us what it was like because you published your first book on memory at age 13.
Yeah. So I grew up in Miami. I'm a product of Miami-Dade public schools, and it was mandatory that we did science projects in middle school every year. And so it was when I was in eighth grade, I did my science project on a learning technique called mind mapping, which at the time was pretty much being applied in business and industry by adults. And so an eighth grader, I didn't really care about applications in business and industry, but I did care about applications in day to day what I was doing in school. And so that's what I did my project on. I looked at how to apply mind mapping to the areas of recall and creativity in the context of something that an eighth grader would have to do, and our control group perform the same tasks the traditional way they would work, which was linear sentence type, more rote-based learning. And we got statistically significant results indicating that the mind mapping approach worked. And on the basis of that, I was invited to present my research at an educational conference in Sydney, Australia that summer. And in preparation for the conference, my dad, who was a speaker, explained to me that when you talk in front of a group of people, because I had never spoken in front of a group of people, he said, you put a handout together and you give them the handout. And I'm like, well, Dad, handouts are boring. I think to this day, handouts are still boring. Handouts are boring. And I knew adults were going to come to the presentation. I was trying to reach kids. So I decided to write a little book called Brain Power for Kids, How to Become an Instant Genius. And I did. And I showed up in Sydney with 50 copies. I went to a local printer in Miami. We printed 50 copies. And within 24 hours, I was all over the national media in Australia. I became like a little mini celebrity for 2 weeks. And within weeks, I had a book publishing deal in Australia and New Zealand. So
At
that's how it
age
all
13.
began. That's how it all began. Yeah.
All that at age 13. That's incredible. So photographic memory, or did you have to study?
I don't really think I have a photographic memory. I did have to study. Having said that, when I started working with mind mapping, I was able to spend less time studying and get amazing grades. I mean, that was the beauty of this technique, that it's a method and a methodology that works more congruently with the way the brain like naturally works and functions compared to the traditional approach that most learners use, K-12 and even college, university, tertiary level. So what it enabled was faster, more efficient, more robust learning. And I found after I started mind mapping for about a year, I would naturally start to think that way when I came across any type of information. So I think it did sharpen my ability to think, to connect ideas, to be creative. And yeah, I mean, that was the beauty of that research. Like I wasn't doing my science project on something obscure that wasn't relevant to me and my classmates. It was actually doing research on something that was implementable and applicable. And what, as I mentioned, what was fascinating as a byproduct is as a teenager, I inadvertently pioneered some of the early educational applications of that methodology.
I've got to tell you, hearing inadvertently in the various terms you're using, definitely the top of the scale of the folks I've gotten to interview. And we've had some pretty sharp people. Tell us about your research with Garth Brooks' return after his retirement. That's impressive.
Sure, sure. So just to clarify, he wasn't technically retired. He was essentially off the road for a period of time to do something pretty extraordinary, which was to be a present father and be there for his daughters. And so I think he vowed when his youngest daughter graduated from high school, he would resume his career. So I think that's something pretty unique and commendable, says a lot about him. And so when he was uh, getting back on the road, he and his manager came to me to see if we could actually look at numbers and data and evidence, which, by the way, at that time was very unique for an artist and manager in the music industry to even be interested in something like that and think that way. But Garth had gotten his, I think, MBA or master's or something, and he's such an interesting, intelligent guy. And one of the things he studied was data and statistics. So what we triangulated a number of data sources to come up with a predictive model that could be used in the context of his on sales. And it was a real pleasure to get to work with him. And I was pretty shocked at, I would send him statistical analysis and he'd get back to me and he'd say, but what are the confidence intervals? I'm like, how does he know what a confidence interval is? That's amazing. I didn't put them in there because I thought that would just muddy the waters. And so it was probably one of the most fun, exciting engagements and jobs I've ever had, and extremely memorable. And it's an amazing, amazing team, including his late promoter, who I had the pleasure of working with. And it was an amazing, amazing experience.
Well, and speaking of numbers, tell us about musology.
Absolutely. So the premise behind Muzology is that kids and people more generally know the words to all their favorite songs, and that's something we do very easily and naturally. Yet the same students struggle to learn. And so when I was working with Garth and his manager, Bob, I started talking to Bob about this idea of what if we could harness the power of music to help people remember things they struggle with. And so given my background in learning as a teenager, that was absolutely on my radar. As soon as I started working into the music business, it occurred to me as a former memory researcher, and that's what my doctoral research is in as well, memory. So it occurred to me as a former memory researcher just how powerful music is as a learning technology. And so we started to seriously talk about this idea of harnessing our network of hit songwriters and music producers and creating MTV quality music videos that could teach content and curriculum that kids struggled with. And when we looked at the K-12 landscape, what leaped off the page as one of the most acute pain points was math, and particularly middle school math. So that's where we started. We the first incarnation and iteration of Muzology taught pre-algebra and algebra readiness topics through music videos.
So tell us about the styles of music that you use in Muzology.
So we cast a wide net. We write and produce in a wide array of genres. The idea was, and still is, to create content that resonates with the demographic. And so preteens, teenagers. And so rap, hip hop, pop, Latin pop, country. We try to write across all the key genres.
So give us an example of some lyrics that might help a student remember something about math.
Sure, sure. So one of our latest songs that I love a lot is on the metric system. So we came up with a mnemonic to remember the prefixes from largest to smallest. So that is kids here drink unicorn dusted cereal milk. And that maps to kilo, hecto, deca, unit, deci, centi, milli. And so I ask adults, do you know all the prefixes? And they're like, nope. And I show them that chorus, and within 15 seconds, adults know all the prefixes. And then, so that's example of more rote memorization. But then what we also do in our videos, and this is what we've done with a lot of our R&D work, is we've figured out how to use music to convey more conceptual understanding of topics. So another lyric is our song Pie is Fly, which is on pi. And let's see, that lyric goes, diameter goes around every circle 3 times and a little more. No matter how big or small your circle is, pi is always 3.14. So another lyric, but we've got lots of gems in the catalog.
We're going to show one of the video clips right now, the examples of Muzology.
2 times 12 is 24. Let's count by twos before you walk out that door. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Now I know my twos. Show me once more.
So is it true that your talent consists of Grammy Award singers and songwriters?
Yeah, we have Grammy award-winning, Grammy-nominated songwriters, music producers, mix engineers. We have #1 hit songwriters. We have songwriters and producers who have worked with some of the biggest artists, global artists out there. And that's been really exciting for me to see how such credentialed and successful people in the music industry have been so enthusiastic about working with us and applying their talents and skills to do something really positive and uplifting for kids, for learners, for the country, for the world.
You've told me before that your greatest results are with low-performing students. How does that work?
So, great question. What we typically find going into a low-performing school is that you've got kids with the talent and ability to learn, but a completely broken mindset and sense of efficacy. So these are kids who, for whatever reason, usually internalized at a young age, I'm dumb, math is hard. And so as a result, and that could have come from any number of things, right? It could have come from a bad test score. It could have come from something a friend said, a parent said, a teacher said, who knows? Could have come from any number of things. And so then what happens is once that gets internalized, those students, they check out, they stop studying, they stop paying attention, they stop showing up to class. And so they get stuck in this negative self-reinforcing feedback loop where they continue to get confirmatory evidence. I'm dumb, math is hard. And so that becomes like a very real, palpable belief to them, and it becomes part of their worldview. And so when we go into those classrooms with Muzology, suddenly these students go, wait a second, music videos? And per your earlier question, wait a second, rap, hip hop? Oh, I like this music. This is kind of cool. And so it draws them in, it gets their attention. And then suddenly they take a math quiz and they're getting an 80%, a 90%. And it actually confuses them at first, John, because they're going, I don't get 80s and 90s. What? And so it intrigues them. So they get pulled in even further to the platform and they would like, let's try this again. Let's do another one. And suddenly they're getting 90s and 100s. And for a lot of these kids, they go, this is the first time in my life I've ever gotten 100 on a math quiz. And by the way, our in-platform math quizzes, they're not softballs. I mean, they are challenging quizzes. We have teachers asking if we could make the questions easier. So we're not lowering standards for anyone in this platform. We're raising the tide for everybody. That's our approach. And so suddenly these kids realize what they're capable of. And so this negative self-reinforcing feedback loop, it gets stopped in its tracks. And suddenly it starts to spiral this way, where these kids go, wait, I can do math. And wait, it's not impossible. And wait, it's actually kind of fun. And wait, it actually feels good to achieve. And wait, I want more of that. And so these kids start paying attention. I've had teachers say once they start using Muzology, when teachers are just teaching using regular instruction, kids in her class will say to other kids, please be quiet. I'm trying to hear what she's saying. Like teachers go, that would never happen before. Attendance goes up, behavior issues go down. And suddenly these kids find this newfound sense of pride and self-efficacy. And then what happens for these learners is everything changes. So we'll have a math teacher come to us and say, the football coach, the band instructor, the English teacher came to me and said, what are you doing with your kids? They're different. Something's different about them. And to your point and your question, I think those are the outcomes we're most proud of at Muzology. Absolutely. We're proud of the learning gains. Of course, we're proud of that. But wow, when we can witness these transformations that happen for these kids at an emotional and psychological level, at the level of who they are, that's pretty darn exciting. And what I might add is we're not doing it, they're doing it. We're just giving them a tool for them to see what they're truly capable of.
We're talking with Dr. Lana Israel, the founder of Muzology, and we're going to be back with her of the segment 2 in just a moment.